We're broadcasting from the Middle Tennessee Electric Studios.
Visit mte.com.
Middle Tennessee Electric, serving to make life better since 1936.
This is the WGNS Action Line. Talking with Rutherford County newsmakers
since 1947.
This is the WGNS Action Line. Now your host, Scott Walker.
Joining us in studio this morning, both master gardeners, by the way. We have Sue Alexander and Carol Wood with us. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. We're cold.
It is very cold.
Ditto.
So what does that mean for area gardeners, landscapers, and those who want to have a nice lawn this spring and summer?
So I think you need to be aware of the zones, the USDA zones that we live in for plants. This area is zone 7B, which means that our plants will tolerate any temperatures, if you buy a zone 7 plant, from 5 to 10 degrees on average in the winter. So that means that they're safe to not have any harm, unless, of course, you get something like a snap freeze that we had in 2022. But that was because it had been warm, and then the temperature tumbled 50 degrees and stayed that way for almost 3 days. And so that did a lot of damage on plants. But most of the plants we have here definitely can withstand the temperatures that we have in the wintertime.
I did see a few people, their front yards, they had their bushes covered and stuff like that. And does that really help out that much?
That will give you about 5 degrees of warmth on a bush. The tricky part, like with the ice that we had the other day, is you don't want the weight of that ice on top of that sheet. So you really want to wait till after the ice, particularly ice. Snow's an insulator, so you don't have to do much for snow. But it's ice that is really the tricky part.
Now, what about all the broken tree branches out there? And, well, some trees are destroyed because of all the ice, but broken tree branches, what can we do to help that tree recover?
Great question. The first thing that you probably need to do is get out and assess, and it's been hard to do that since the ice storm, and then we had rains, and we had all these fun weather events that we're currently having. As soon as possible, you need to get out and check those trees and shrubs for any type of further damage that may be there. For example, I have a huge pine tree in my backyard, and lots of limbs snapped off, and you can see where the big branches broke, but the underlying branches are what you want to look at to see if there's any that could be partially damaged that may be capable of falling as the future comes. And so what you want to look at first is, do I have a target? Meaning, is it over the swing set for the kids? Is it over a structure that you don't want to get harmed? So you're looking for that liability / issue that may occur. And so you want to see if those branches need to be taken out. They may have cracks in them. They may have other things. Now, if you are a homeowner and you love that tree and you want to be sure that it survives, I would suggest that you have a certified arborist come in and look at that tree, because they have the eyesight and the forethought and the know-how that an average person does not. It's kind of, to me, it's no different than me trying to fix the plumbing as opposed to calling the plumber. So I would suggest that you try to get a certified arborist to come in. And I know that can be expensive at sometimes, but it doesn't have to be, for somebody to just come and assess your situation. And then finding somebody that's qualified to take care of your issues. So clearing those branches, getting those things out of there, taking care of the things that have already broken or fallen down, and clearing those paths, and then finding that target area is what you probably need to do. Assessment's the first key.
And while that may be expensive, I guarantee you it's cheaper than fixing the roof of your house if a tree branch were to fall, or a tree to fall on your house.
Or being sued by someone. God forbid.
We do have quite a few questions here, and one of the questions, kind of interesting, it says, what makes gardening here in Rutherford County unique or maybe different to other areas?
We live on good old Rocky Top. So, I've just been marveled and horrified of the building over in Rutherford County where I am, and they're taking the hillsides down. And so when you ride by those, I'll call them scars, what you see is about maybe a foot of soil, and then you see solid rock.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that makes gardening here in Tennessee. I've lived in lots of places, and this has been the most challenging. And then, the hot, humid summers we get, and then the dry fall, and then the wet spring. So just finding plants that adapt to the environmental conditions that we live in.
You bring up an interesting fact, and I was thinking when you were saying that, as you're driving towards Nashville on I-24, there is a hillside that you see that's kind of past Cracker Barrel, that exit, Sam Ridley, that exit. But I remember for years, it was a beautiful treed hillside, and then developers came in, start cutting trees down. Next thing you know, they cut the hillside in half, and it was literally a big cliff all of a sudden it was an eyesore all of a sudden. While I love the fact that we have growth because it equals jobs, and that means our kids and grandkids can stay here and work here, but at the same time, growth can be pretty ugly.
It can, unfortunately.
It can be devastating, which is, I think, what Carol brought up the point is the plants here have learned to adapt. So if you're new to the area and you're going out to purchase trees, shrubs, flowers, whatever you are to purchase, you want to be sure that it's native to this area. That way it knows how to handle all of the strange ups and downs with the weather, and it understands how to work with our rocky, crazy soil.
And it is wild how different the soil is from one area of Middle Tennessee to another.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
Just some examples, Las Casas and Rockville, and a lot of Christiana as well. There is so much rock out there. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're lucky if you can dig further than maybe 6 inches in most places in those areas. But then you go just towards Eagleville, and then the county over, Williamson County, College Grove, best soil around.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I live up in Walter Hill, and you're absolutely correct about 6 inches. That's about as far as you can go out in the field. It's like, oh, well. And then that's when you learn to amend and or use raised beds.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah. And, of course, as you're going towards Walter Hill, just past it, Cedars of Lebanon, another great example.
Right.
They've got the cedar trees all over the place, and one would think there's probably a lot of dirt under there, but no, those cedar trees are growing on rock.
Right. They are.
Most trees only need 8 to 12 inches for their roots.
Fascinating. I didn't know that.
They don't have a taproot.
Well, there are, because of the fact that there are so many different types of soils out there, if you're new to the area, you buy a new house, you build a new house, whatever the case is, when you first begin those stages of landscaping for the first time, chances are good whoever built the house brought in
topsoil,
dirt. Yeah.
Right.
So, but then there's the underlying question. How far down will you be able to dig in order to plant a larger tree that's going to need more root space?
Well, the good thing about trees is they don't really need to be planted deeply, but they need to have width in the circumference of their hole. So usually in my yard, for example, I'm new construction, you hit the gravel pad within somewhere 4 to 8 inches, depending. But the other thing that's really important is to get a soil test to know what kind of fill that they've put in your yard, because that will help you decide how to amend and what plants. Like we live on limestone, so the soil is pretty basic, doesn't have a lot of acid in it. So acid-loving plants, for example, may not thrive here as well as somewhere else.
And with limestone and other types of rock that you're going to find here in Rutherford County, I guess, well, there's some trees, I guess the roots, they grow deeper as opposed to spreading out more, but we don't usually have those types of trees. They're not native to Tennessee.
Right.
So look again, going back, look for this stuff that's native to Tennessee.
Right.
Absolutely.
And if you look at the structure of the tree and you look at it in the summer or even now, with the width of the branches, those roots go out to the tips of those, so they spread quite a ways, and most of the time we don't see them. But sometimes you do see them above the ground.
For those who are planning a pool in the backyard, be careful what trees you plant. Even 6 feet away to 10 feet away from the pool, be careful what trees you plant, because it's going to be not only a mess,
Right.
with the leaves falling in, but those roots can destroy the inside of your pool. They can literally break through that liner that you have, even if it's
Crack the concrete.
Yeah, even if it's concrete.
Yeah, absolutely.
The important thing to remember about the structure of the tree is, like Carol said, the roots spread far and wide. Think about how a tree has to balance itself.
Mm-hmm.
It goes straight up, and then it has all of these lovely branches, or it should, that spread its arms. And its feet, I like to think of it as, I used to dance when I was a kid, and as in a ballet position there, and they have to have their feet out, and they spread those feet out more than the distance of the branches of the tree. So when you think about that tree, that's its stabilizer. That's why it doesn't go straight down. If it went straight down, it wouldn't be able to stand up straight. It's like when you put a stake in the ground, you can wobble that stake back and forth, but if you have a stake that has feet on it, it doesn't move. So you have to think of the tree the same way, and that's why those roots can spread so far that you're right. If they're near a pool, they're gonna invade.
We have a text here reminding us that, and I didn't even think about this until now. I was going to say it towards the end of the show, but tomorrow that annual winter farmers market continues, and that'll start tomorrow morning, 8:00.
Absolutely.
And that's at the UT-TSU Agriculture,
Yes.
the Rutherford County Agriculture, the Lane
Agri Park.
Lane Agri Park.
315 John R. Rice Boulevard.
So tomorrow morning, 8 to noon, and that is where that will be.
And it's a great farmer's market. If you are like me, I was so sad when I got here and we didn't have a winter's farmer's market, because you're always looking for fresh produce that's grown by our local farmers, and now they decided to do it this winter, and it's a fabulous market. You shouldn't miss it. If you're looking to go shopping, that's a good place to go.
And I love the fact that you can talk to the farmers, the ones who are growing whatever it is you're buying, the ones who are producing. If it's
Right.
meat you're buying, you can talk to them one-on-one. So if you have certain fears of chemicals or whatever the case is, you can ask them those questions to learn more about that product. That comes in handy, I think, for a lot of people. A lot of people have fears these days of chemicals and all of that stuff. Again, with us today, we have Master Gardeners Sue Alexander and Carol Wood. And another question we had texted in, got a couple. Let me scroll down to this one that says, let's see. What is your go-to when it comes to drought-tolerant plants? Because there are many summers where we don't see a lot of rain in Tennessee.
Well, I go to natives. There are a lot of natives that can tolerate dry conditions. So there are places where you can find what native plants are found in Tennessee. And almost all of those plants, especially in the front part of my yard, my watering system doesn't really reach parts of the bed that I have flowers in. So things like lantana doesn't require much water, and there's a blanket flower that's beautiful, doesn't require much water. Zinnias don't require much water. So you pick and choose those plants that thrive the best, and you might take a few summers of just trying to see what works the best in your yard. But I think of my yard sort of like as the interior of my house. So you paint the walls. You don't keep the same wall color forever. You're moving the furniture around. So if you take that approach to gardening, plant some sun-tolerant, drought-tolerant plants, and then move them to where they thrive. So it's about putting that right plant in the right place.
Here's an interesting one. This one says, I moved here about 5 years ago after I retired. At the time, my son was about to graduate from MTSU. So I decided when I retire, that's where I'm moving, and I did. But they're asking, what are the biggest pest problems that you see with gardens and landscaping here in the Murfreesboro area?
Japanese beetles. I had an influx of those last summer. And also we had not an influx because we caught them in time, but bagworms. And if you haven't seen a bagworm, they sometimes will destroy like your evergreens. They can just eat them overnight, it seems. And they're these funny little shaped looking bags that hang from the branches of trees.
It almost looks like a pine cone.
It does.
A little.
They're small.
But instead of a pine cone, kind of the leaves go up on a pine cone, or the points go up on a pine cone. A bagworm, it hangs down. It's literally a bag that has a worm inside of it.
Right. And, in the summertime, you have hornworms on your tomatoes. But here's the way that I manage these things. I think it's important that you scout your yard. So you're looking around to see if something like a tomato plant can be decimated overnight by a hornworm. So you walk out one morning, it's beautifully leafed, and the next morning you walk out and you have nothing but stems.
Shredded.
Man.
And hornworms are so camouflaged, it's hard to see them. But I take great pleasure in scooping those things off. If you have chickens, they love them, and just smashing them. And with Japanese beetles,
Stress relief.
yes, knocking those beetles. They like roses. They like my weeping cherry tree. Just knocking them off the plant into a bucket of soapy water. So I rarely use a pesticide or spray, but I do more natural techniques. Because again, it's like what's in our environment, what are we harming? Because pesticides don't just kill the things you don't want, they also kill the insects that are beneficial.
There's a lot of insects that are beneficial that people consider a pest.
Yeah.
And you have to be really careful, like Carol said, about if you wanted to spray, you might pick something that says, oh, it kills that hornworm, but the residual spray can also harm other beneficial pests that you need for either pollination, or they're beneficial to helping out other things in the garden. So one of the things that I wanted to mention was that there's a really valuable resource with the University of Tennessee. And if you go to uthort.tennessee.edu, there is all kinds of information out there on things that people are asking about today, like native plants. There's what kind of vegetables grow. They do lots of testings and trials to figure out what does grow well here in the Tennessee, Middle Tennessee area, across Tennessee, for that matter, if someone's listening in a different area of Tennessee. And it's a valuable resource. You can also look for things like the pests information and how to identify what is this thing that's crawling all over my whatever plant you may have.
Here's an interesting one, and I didn't really think about this until I just read this, but it said, I've noticed an increase in stink bugs over the last couple of weeks, especially inside my house, and I don't recall that happening before, but why are we seeing an increase in stink bugs?
It's cold outside. They're coming in for warmth.
Yeah.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
We need to play that song. How was it? Baby, it's cold outside.
Baby, it's cold outside.
It's very cold outside. I bet we're going to see a lot more bugs in the house.
Unfortunately, they don't say, I really can't stay. They say, I really want to stay.
I really want you to leave. But yeah, I guess we are going to see probably more bugs in our house. Hate to say it, but because of all that ice, they're coming inside some way.
It's just like any other pest, rodents, those types of things. They're looking for warmth. And just like we are.
And we don't want the rodents either inside of our house.
No.
That's never a good thing. We're going to take a short break. And during this break, feel free to text us any questions you may have for Master Gardeners Sue Alexander and Carol Wood. And again, once more, the big lawn at Lane Agri Park tomorrow, Friday, from 8 a.m. until noon. It is the every Friday Winter Farmers Market. So just remember, that's happening every Friday from 8 a.m. until noon. Time right now, 8:44. Once more, text those questions in to 615-893-1450. We'll be right back right after this short break.
The Action Line on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at WGNSradio.com.
Grab your coffee and your recycling bin. It's time for the Recycled Minute with Rocky the Raccoon, Tennessee's top trash talking mascot.
Rocky the Raccoon here with RecycleRightTN.com with a fashion tip today. Old clothes and textiles can be reused or recycled. Don't trash them. Donate gently used items to local thrift stores or drop them off at textile recycling boxes. There's places like Greenhouse Ministries, the Goodwill, and many, many other places too in town that would love your gently used clothing. So make sure those old clothes go to folks who could really use them. I'm Rocky the Raccoon for RecycleRightTN.com. Closing out today's show, the Raccoon Recyclers.
Go to Recycle Right TN. Recycle Right TN. Learn what goes in and what stays gone. Keep it clean and carry on.
I'm a single mom, and as you can imagine, it's a fight sometimes just to get out the door. But when I need new tires or something's wrong with my car, I need to head to someone I can trust. I go to Tire World.
Tire World, we keep your family rolling.
Tire World, locally owned and operated.
You're tuned to WGNS Murfreesboro, and this morning we're talking lawns and gardens. What kind of summer do you think we're going to have? I mean, with these cold temperatures that we have seen and been seeing, what do you think we're going to have?
Hot. It's there's always hot.
Yeah.
You get to July and August, and it's just blasted hot.
Yeah, that's something you don't have to worry too much about. It's going to be hot out there.
You can count on it. There
That's
is no
right.
such thing as it's going to, I think we'll be in the 50s and
moderate,
60s.
Yeah.
We're going to have a moderate
to
summer.
me is 80s.
Instead of 95. Yeah.
You know, it's times like this where the weather is so cold, and I've got arthritis in my back and in my hands. You know, I feel like I'm way too young to even say those words, arthritis.
You shouldn't be saying that, Scott.
But man, you can really feel it.
Yeah.
It hits you hard.
It does. I'm ready to get a summer home somewhere. Find somebody else to pay for it, though.
Now you know why people retire to Arizona, right?
I get it. Yeah. So trees, that is a big topic right now. Of course, Middle Tennessee Electric, they've been doing the best that they possibly can.
Fabulous job.
In not only pruning trees throughout the year so they don't get wrapped up in lines, but man, with the winter storm we had with the ice destroying some trees, MTE was still out there doing a very good job.
Right.
But let's talk more about trees and maybe getting new trees.
Sure. Well, perfect time to get a new tree is through Tennessee Tree Day because they are very minimally priced. They also have the advantage of being a bare root tree, and they're all native to Tennessee. So if you just Google Tennessee Tree Day, you can still purchase your trees. And then no matter where you are in Tennessee, there are local pickups available to go and pick up your trees. They come nicely wrapped in a plastic bag and in some newspaper. Right now is the perfect time to plant a tree.
Oh, okay. So if you are able to dig a hole right now,
Well, I don't think the ground is quite frozen.
But now's the time to put it in the ground.
Yes.
I never would have guessed that.
Between now and the end of March, the Tennessee Environmental Council is the sponsor of Tree Day, and that's designated as Saturday, March the 1st. And that's most of those pickup sites will have trees available those days. But if you want those trees, you need to get online now to place your orders because they do sell out. And like Carol said, you can just Google Tree Day Tennessee, or you can go to it's TECTN. So that's the Tennessee Environmental Council, Tennessee.org. And you can find Tree Day on their website, and then you can place your order. And they're when Carol said they're bare root, and what that means for folks that don't understand what bare root is, it just means you're getting the tree, a little stick with the roots hanging off of it, as opposed to getting one that might have be root bound in a pot.
Yeah.
So it's a great way to start out planting trees, and trees grow here pretty fast. So they're big before you know it.
Well, just between us, buying the very small, very young new trees, great price to do it that way, but for me personally, I've never been able to fully grow one, so I've always ended up having to buy a tree, with the root ball on it and everything, and going that route. Is there some special technique that I need to be doing whenever you do plant these very young trees, or am I just not tree smart?
Well,
A little of both.
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple things about trees that are not tricky to plant, but that you need to be aware of when you plant a tree. A tree, most of the time people plant their trees too deep in the soil. So, Sue, help me out here. You have to look for
when you're looking at the tree, and I have lost the technical word too, senility setting in, but when you're looking at that stem of the tree, of these small trees, is what we're talking about, right where the roots come to the top, there's almost like a knot where the roots start to form. You do not want to bury that. It needs to be on the surface of the soil. And sometimes you have to keep an eye on that, because I don't know if you've done this before, Scott, but when you're planting something, you put it in the hole, you think you've got it all just right, and then the next day you come out and the soil has sunk because it's settled. So you need to just keep an eye on that so that it stays, so that the tree has soil around it, but it's not mounded. Have you ever seen a tree that's been buried in mulch and soil? It looks like a volcano. That's the incorrect way to plant a tree. So,
and I will tell you another mistake I made. Our first house as a family with kids and everything, I planted a new dogwood a little too close to the house itself, thinking, I bought it at, 6 feet tall. I'm going to plant, it's going to be perfect right here in my front landscaping. Planted it kind of next to the front porch and the front, one of the front windows. And within maybe 6 years or so, it was overtaking that side of the house, smashing into the window. I mean, if I left it there, I probably would have smashed the window. But 7 or 8 years later, I had to cut it down.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, when you think about planting these little small plants, you have to look at the predicted width and height of the tree. And then, so let's say it's a tree that's going to be 30 feet and 25 feet wide. So you wouldn't plant that at 6 feet from the corner of your house.
Smart people would not plant that close.
You would plant it as far away as you could. So that's something to consider, because I think a lot of times, even landscapers will come in on a new property and overcrowd the beds without really thinking about how big these plants are going to be.
Yeah.
So you plant it and space it for its mature size, not for the size that it is when you purchase it.
A great point. Again, with us today, we have Carol Wood and Sue Alexander, both master gardeners and much smarter than me when it comes to planting things like trees, flowers, vegetables, all that stuff. But I thinking about that first house where I planted that tree way too close, I also remember that's where I had my first garden as well. And luckily with that, we planted it far enough away from the back of the house that it actually turned out to be perfect. But man, that first garden, I think probably overplanted too many things. It's amazing.
No such thing. No such thing.
Well, it's wild to see how much really does grow when you have your own garden, and how many vegetables, cucumbers, tomatoes, whatever it is, how many actually end up growing. A lot.
They'll surprise you. Mother Nature is very well at performing. So
very well.
Scott, I would like to mention that we, as master gardeners, help out with the Linebaugh Library, and we have a series coming up in March. It's actually in March, it's every Saturday at 10 a.m. There'll be a garden series on different subjects. You can go to the Linebaugh library website and see what the subject matter is. And after March, we do a monthly program. It's the first Saturday every month at 10 a.m.
Now, I know the Master Gardeners here are very interactive. They're doing a lot of stuff. So at the Limeball Library, whenever you do this event, these ongoing events, do you have like a group of Master Gardeners that typically do it? Is it usually one or two? How do you go about doing that?
Usually the class is taught by one or two people, and we try to keep that in variety form so that it's not the same person speaking at each event. And we try to pick people that we all have different interests. I love vegetables. My friend Nancy, that's a Master Gardener, loves flowers. So she wouldn't talk about vegetables. I would, and she would talk about flowers. So we've got a lot of variety within our group. We have lots of people that were in the industry. We have people that were that are certified arborists. We have all people that do landscape planning. That was their job before they retired, and so. There's a good variety of people in the Master Gardeners group. We currently just started our new Master Gardeners intern class this past week, and we've got some fresh blood.
Right.
I had another question here, and also I guess kind of a statement, but they're saying they just got finished building their new house. And it looks like the contractor, they put down Kentucky fescue all over the dirt, if you would.
Right.
But they're talking about going in and redoing it and putting down, they called it pre-grown grass that comes in rolls. But I know there's another name.
Sod.
Sod. So I guess they're talking about sod in this case. Is that something people can do on their own, put down sod? And would you recommend it?
Well, I have laid some sod myself, and
Me too.
What I will tell you, it is very heavy,
and very expensive.
It doesn't have to be expensive, but if you want good quality, yes. And I too have laid sod, and I agree. It is very, very labor intensive. People think it's like just throwing down these little squares and in order to have it done correctly, it's hard.
And maybe
hard
that's
work.
the expensive part,
right,
is having it done and having it done correctly, more so than the cost of the sod.
I would probably overseed that ground again, and you could do it now, actually, if you, again, go by these building sites and you see fresh grass germinating, that fescue will germinate now. It waits for sort of a warm spot, and it's nice and I would recommend doing that now because once we get to a certain temperature, it sort of becomes harder to germinate. So go buy some seed first, and you can rake up and sort of disturb your soil a little bit, and then put that stuff down, and hopefully it'll fill in. Because a lot of people, you start with sort of a patchy lawn.
Well, since you ask, I know you didn't really ask, but what always drives me crazy about seeing some of these new houses, new neighborhoods, is that you've got the contractor who puts down all the grass seed and everything, but they never level out the yard before they do it. And they're putting the seed over all these ruts that were caused by bulldozers, trucks, and so forth. That's one of those pet peeves of mine. But if you really want a nice yard, you need to deal with that first.
Sure.
Whenever you first move in.
Right.
I also might suggest that if anybody has more in-depth questions, they could take that question to the Extension Service, which is technically that's what the Master Gardeners are. We are an extension of the Extension Service. So if they have questions related to other information on trees, grasses, all those things, they can call the Extension office here in Rutherford County. That number is 615-898-7710, and they can get an extension agent that is qualified to answer the question even better than we are, even though we think we're experts at everything.
And we are out of time.
I don't mean to speak for Carol.
Sue Alexander and Carol Wood, both Master Gardeners, with us this morning, and we appreciate you joining us. And once again, tomorrow between 8 and 12, the Winter Spring Farmers Market at Lane Agri Park. We'll talk to you again soon.